Round 1. Fight.
Heroes never die.
I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite store on the Citadel.
I used to be an adventurer like you. Then I took an arrow in the knee.
Power, sex, power. They both come down to one thing.
Hungry gamers.
Hello, and welcome, boys and girls, to the 251st episode of the Hungry Gamers podcast. We are powered by ATEBIT.net and those sexy legends over at Audio Technica. I'm your extremely humble host, Brendan White. You can find me just about everywhere at Brendan 8-Bit. And joining me today, my podcast, Ride or Dies, plural, the Shelley and Remy, to my man in black. You can find them on the socials at Miss Ali Hart and at Jono himself, respectively. We're talking obviously about Miss Ali Hart and Australia's Jono Pech. Welcome to the 251st episode of the Hungry Gamers podcast. What up?
I love that intro. I think Ali's very much a Remy and I'm very much a Shelley, I have to say.
Talk about ride or die. I'm ride or death. I'm borderline dead right now. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah, full disclosure, Miss Hart is battling some ailments at the moment, but she's summoned the energy, summoned the necessary internal strength to push through and deliver you the best Hungry Gamers yet.
Yes.
Debatable, but they're all pretty great.
250 was pretty fantastic. And it was a marathon one too. So maybe that's factoring into Ali's ailments right now. Still recovering.
Yeah, it was a journey. It was the largest or longest episode, and I guess maybe largest episode to date. It was a thing, and thanks for all the positive feedback and all the love on that one. It was a little different to our usual video game pop culture centric banter, but we had a lot of fun with it. It's good to know that all you listeners out there have been enjoying that 2.5 hour jaunt as well.
So good.
Many memories, many things that were said that probably should have got taken back here or there, but that's not how we roll. We own those statements and move forward
and post them on the internet for everyone to hear. That's
it. And then some more statements that we're going to be posting on the internet today and on those podcast airwaves. We've got Australia's Jono Pech on board, obviously. One part of the 8-Bit Megazord machine, podcast host extraordinaire, writer, narrative director, sound engineer now, you name it, you add it to his business card. It is ever flowing.
We're a rapper now.
Songwriter, rapper, amateur barber, family man, wing chef. The list goes on and on and on. But we thought it would be very, very sort of apt to bring him in today because his first ever video game he's been working on is now officially out in the wilderness. We're talking about Rainbite's Trigger Witch. So, Jono, first and foremost, congratulations. Your video game cherry has been taken, and it seems that it's a tasty cherry, and the world has been enjoying it.
Yeah, for the most part, it's had some really great feedback, which has been really encouraging, really cool to see. I've just been living deep in the weeds on all the content that's been popping up between the reviews, which have been really cool, and like Let's Plays and watching a few people stream the game, which is pretty surreal and wild. So yeah, just living that Trigger Witch life this week and taking it all in, trying to enjoy it and interact with people that are posting and tweeting about it and picking it up on the sales and everything. It's on all consoles, so there's no really barriers to who can play it, which is great.
You've certainly become the, at least on what I see on my socials, the face of Trigger Witch, one might say. You're on the front lines there. You're responding to fans and peers and media, getting very witty and very, very comedically timed with your social shares as well. You've been nailing the responses and the tweets. So keep it up. But yeah, we've been fortunate enough to be playing Trigger Witch for the last several weeks, working our way through this little ditty. And so we thought we'd do a little bit of a spoiler-free review, pseudo preview for people out there that haven't yet got the game. Maybe you can give us a bit of inside baseball, behind the curtain type of stuff, and
it's kind of like
just have a bit of banter.
It's kind of like, is it Huckleberry Finn who attends his own funeral?
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of like
old Huck Finn.
kind of like that being here while the game's reviewed. I'm just gonna lean forward. Yes. What else do you have to say about me?
That's it. Then we're going to chase you out of town while you navigate down a river on a little wood raft.
Yep.
So, yeah. I don't know if you got a river close by, but we're coming for you. Socially distanced, of course. But yeah, Trigger Witch. It's I think I can probably speak for both of us here, Miss Hart. This is a genre and a style of game that you and I aren't, I guess, too familiar with or regular partakers in.
No, definitely not. Not something that I would normally play.
Yeah, so twin stick shooter with a 16-bit-esque art style in the vein of early Zelda games and other games of that ilk. A lot of charm, a lot of heart. Very very nice fantasy world that you built out there in Evertonia. Great cast of characters, but then you combine that with the hyperviolence of a lot of modern day weaponry, where you are blowing little creatures to bits by the second.
That's it. It's I've been described like the every single review has made some kind of like Zelda with guns reference, and that's the easiest way to pitch it because that's it makes sense and it's something that some people have maybe wondered about over the years. But I've been saying it's like Zelda made by Quentin Tarantino because the blood is just splattering and there's like, a couple other maybe things that make it like that I won't get into for spoiler reasons. But it's definitely got a hook to it that catches people's eye in that hyper violence on top of the cutesy kind of sprites, and you can pat all the pets in the game like little turtles and hamsters and dogs, and people love that. And then you walk out of the village and suddenly you're blasting animated or reanimated mushrooms and onions and imps and stuff to smithereens and walking through their guts. So yeah, it's something.
The kill count and the gem count accompanying that is very high, but for those that I guess want to just be fully embedded in the cutesy dynamic of Trigger Witch, there is an option where you can turn the blood mode off and instead it goes pinata style and you get a lot of confetti
and candy
getting thrown around the place and candy. So that's a nice little touch, because I know some people out there in the internets did get a little sensitive about the apparently pro-gun nature of this game and romanticizing violence and gunplay, and come on. Anyway, we don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but it's been fun. It was a challenge, like not a challenge. Challenge is probably far too severe, but like just remapping my brain to sort of adjust to this gameplay style.
The two sticks, yeah.
Yeah, going to the twin stick shooter mentality when I'm used to playing. I play a lot of Apex these days and been playing like Death's Door at the same time as this, as well as Pokemon Unite and stuff. So just sort of rewiring my thought processes for games to the twin stick style took a minute, but once I settled in, it was smooth as butter after that. Like I really enjoyed that frenetic, frantic, not even like minute to minute, it was almost like second to second gameplay and insanity where I'm just blowing everything to bits, come rhyme or reason, and there's just viscera everywhere, and there's gems flying. My little bat's getting all my stray gems. Bless little batty. Well, I called him. Miss Hart, did you grab the bat? Have you got the bat?
I've got the bat now. Ronald.
Ronald? You went Ronald as well. Good to see.
Yeah, Ronald is the canon choice.
Yeah. Is there a way to get metrics? So it's not really like it's a spoiler, but not a spoiler. You can get a little bat companion early in the game, and he finds secrets and picks up stray gems from the enemies you kill. And there's 2 naming options. I can't even remember the other naming option. I just went Ronald because it's the best.
Yeah, it's Batty and
is it Batty?
Ronald.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I nailed it beforehand without even thinking. But anyway, this game, it's cute, it's charming, it's got a fun little narrative to it. The characters are well fleshed. It's very Australia's Jono Pech though in the writing, like
so much.
Is that a good thing?
Yeah. It is like, and probably the games world en masse would not obviously think that because they don't know you like we know you. They don't talk to you on the daily like we do. But like, just some of the mannerisms and the tones and the the dad jokes and the way things are getting described. I'm like, yep, that's just Jono with a wig on. That's Jono with a different hair color there. That's female Jono, and it's great to see, and it's got your wholesome charm sprinkled all the way through it, which made this game a treat to play.
That's very kind. There was definitely a review that mentioned the awful dad jokes, but they said it in a positive way. And that really made me stop for a minute and go, yeah, I guess there are a lot of dad jokes and puns in the trophies and that kind of thing, which a lot of people seem to enjoy. It's probably not for everyone. But there's also just... Yeah.
Sorry. That was the one I just groaned at.
Okay. But it's a Simpsons reference. There's so many pop culture references.
Yes.
Like I more than I even realized, and more than people playing will realize, because they won't necessarily pick up on all of them. For example, like in the tutorial, there's a boss, and there's like a moment where she says like, "Now you're in big trouble," which is like a Billy Madison reference when he's playing like dodgeball with those little kids, and that's like something that's probably less obvious than like the Lord of the Rings references or the Harry Potter references. So yeah, it's fun for me just to see who notices these things.
I've been noticing. As I went through, I wrote down some of my favorite ones, like
nice.
Hoppus, the arena, or the clock person. I really enjoyed the 2 glasses of wine that was at a table in a tent, and it ended with inconceivable. And
Princess Bride love right
yeah,
there.
I'm like, ah, like it kind of made me feel like I didn't know that these kind of references would make it into a game. But I needed to know that if Prisoner of Society was a reference or just wording.
No, I think that was intentional.
Okay.
Chris Sheeny is toasting to your successes right now.
It worked. It worked for the... It's not like I've just rammed it in there. But yeah.
I'm like, was this intentional? I'll put a question mark next to it. So, But I love it. I love the little references in there.
And then like if you know me like really well, like you guys do, like there's even podcast references in there. Like there's this basketball podcast that Brendan and I listen to that ends with "Embrace the day," and that's a quote. And there's obviously also, spoilers, a "Stay hungry, stay humble" reference in there. So shout out to the Hungry Gamers.
Yeah, it was a nice little touch seeing things like that. So Miss Hart, this was our first foray into this world. What did you think about it? Like, what's your impressions? What's your vibe? What's your marbo at the moment as far as Trigger Witch? Because you haven't fully rolled credits yet, but you're close to. You're well on your way.
Yeah, I'm very, very close to it. I like hit some hurdles, but that's I guess my own fault for going in on hard mode. But I think. By me going in on hard mode, I'm now really fucking good at this game. Like it's been a cakewalk now. I think there's like levels. Like I was telling Brendan about my arena experience, and then I just got a little too cocky, and I was like getting up to like 60,000, and I was just like, I should probably
on hard mode, JP. On hard mode.
And so I was just like, I could see me spending a lot of time in the arena just because that's just chaotic fun.
It is good fun, yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously, although after some discussion with you on how to play the game, you mentioned that you only died like 5 times in your entire run, and I was like, oh, I die all the time. I die all the time, but it's a learning curve, right?
Yeah. And you're playing on hard, like that's harder than what I played at.
Yeah. So I just like to go in just guns blazing, as you know, as you'd expect with a game like this, and it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of chaotic fun, and my husband's pretty excited now because I've played a game like this because he wants me to play Enter the Gungeon.
Okay.
Enter Gungeon.
That's a step up. Like I tried playing that, and because it's a roguelite, it's got that added element where like if you die, then too bad if you really like that gun you had, because now you got nothing.
Yeah. So but I think, but just purely based on this experience, like, because I normally wouldn't have played, like, this would not be the kind of games on my radar, but now because I've had this experience and on hard mode, I'm feeling pretty cocky and confident in playing these games now. So it's been great. It's a great entry point.
Yeah. There's been like a few reviews that have mentioned that the game's too easy, which if you are like well versed in this genre, I can see how that could be the case. But there is obviously like the difficulty options. You can make it as hard or as simple as you want, and you know, upgrading your guns is something that makes the game... I think it makes it more enjoyable because you feel more powerful, but it certainly makes the game feel a bit easier as you get into the second half, especially if you have a gun of choice that you just want to make super overpowered.
Mm-hmm.
Which I did. But I think that's one good thing about this game too, is that it rewards you for your exploration. Like the map is big and diverse, but like hunting every nook and cranny, going into the caves and off the beaten track, you find either more gems or weapon upgrade components and things like that. So you are getting rewarded for your exploration, which will then ultimately make your journey a little easier. So yeah, taking that extra time to hunt out certain items or objects or see what's behind that door, so to speak, will be beneficial in the long run. So I'd certainly explore, not just implore not to just go sort of the linear path. Get off that beaten track, see what's in this next area of this certain type of the map, or go into that cave, hunt down, like if you hear an enemy or see an enemy, hunt them down, find it, because typically they'll be around some form of chest and you can get rewarded for that. So get them gems, get them parts, because once you start upgrading not only your weapons but then also increasing your health and additional then health pots that you can get through certain things in the game as well, it's really going to help. Like by the end of the game, I felt like I was in God mode because I had everything, pretty well fully leveled up. My health was maxed. I had enough pots to see me through, and I was just mowing down everything without breaking too much of a sweat, and it was fun.
I like that because that kind of works into the narrative of, Colette is at the start this person who's first experiencing her taste of adventure and the outside world, and by the end of it, she's much more powerful and comfortable with combat and blasting dudes.
Yeah, she's pretty much the witch supreme by the end of it. So it's nice to see that personal growth with Colette, the sort of lead that you control throughout your time in this game. And you meet a fun assortment of characters from all walks of life. I love that most of them are just sarcastic, which I can relate to very, very, very greatly. And it's just nice. It's charming, and I like that it's juxtaposed against all this bloodshed. It's this cutesy 16-bit adorable world, and then you just cover it in blood or pinata dust, whichever way you want to go. And I've got to say as well, the soundtrack to this game, or the score to this game, is 3 chef's kisses. Wow. It's so good. It's so good and diverse and fun and 80s to the core, and there's sort of synth and chiptune and like rock and metal vibes in there. Like there's a taste for every musical flavor out there.
It is rad. It's on Spotify and Bandcamp and everything now, so you can check that out. Very talented composer in New Zealand, Finnegan. So shout out to him, and obviously all the Rainbite boys that worked on this game and brought him in and brought me in to help out. But yeah, I love the soundtrack, and the fact that like almost every song has like the light version that's like the almost 90s MIDI kind of RPG style fantasy vibes, and then when combat begins it seamlessly turns into that power ballad metal kind of vibe. Yeah, and it just rocks. Yeah, gets you hyped.
It really does. Gets the toes tapping, the blood flowing.
I've had to listen clearly now ever since you kind of mentioned how you got some of the sound bites for the game, now that you've told me like special guests kind of feature within the game now. So I've been kind of like listening a little bit more intently because knowing that it's a bit of a family affair.
Yeah, so as well as writing the story, I did the sound effects, so all the gun noises and the magic sounds and the creature noises were a big part of that. So every time you kill a creature or a monster, they make some kind of noise, and a lot of those noises are my infant son crying on the floor of this room last year in lockdown. And I was like,
did you just have to smack him to get him to cry, and then you recorded it?
It was more like, hey, if you're not going to stop crying, I'm going to hit record and I'm going to turn this into something. So make hay when the sun shines, I guess, or if life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. And I took those little noise clips and pitched them up or pitched them down and turned them into monsters getting blown into pieces, which is kind of weird when you're playing it, and like I'm playing through the game finally after like a year after doing all this stuff and hearing like him in the game and feeling that conflict of like, oh, I just blasted away this little imp and it reminds me of my kid.
Yeah, I guess that is a bit bittersweet where you see all that hard work and then realize that that's sort of a reflection on your little man. But it's he might be just about the youngest voice actor in gaming history. Like, obviously, I don't have any facts and figures in front of me, but I'd say he's certainly up there.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, unbeknownst
Which is
to
pretty
him.
damn cool.
It's going to be great on his, like,
Yeah,
when he gets older.
When he comes of age, he's suing you for all the royalties. He's like, Dad, pay up, son.
Yeah, he'll get it back in some way, I'm sure.
Yeah, but it's a pleasure to play. The gunplay is great and varied. Like, there is an assortment of weapons. Like, not going to go down the spoiler path. Would-be Trigger Witch players can discover them all themselves, but there's a nice variety of weaponry at your disposal. They all feel different. They sound different. They obviously act different in the game as well. And it's cool because there is a weapon for every playstyle, I guess you could say. You know, you want to get in the face, you want to be long range a little bit, you just want to spray and pray. It's all there. But it's fun, and the controls are really intuitive as well as far as jumping between weapons. I really like that obviously you can map them to the D-pad, but then you can also have your L1 or your LB button to hot swap between, I guess, your two quote-unquote favorites. Yeah. So you can just sort of jump between those two. The movement and sort of your blink ability, I guess you could call it for those dash, that are understanding what that is. Your dash, your blink ability, that's great in combat because there is many an enemy coming at you all the time, and you having that dash to sort of get away and have that half a second to breathe and reevaluate the situation or reload or plan your next steps is so helpful. So having those two dashes on cooldown really, really helps.
Yeah, after playing like Returnal and having to like really learn how to use that dash, I felt like that was good prep for Trigger Witch, especially like some of the boss fights. They have like similarities to the combat there, where there's like maybe a ring of fire or something, and you know, because I had Returnal in my brain, I was like, okay, instead of avoiding this ring of fire, I'm gonna dash through it and then keep the combat coming. So yeah, It can change the way you play and can get you out of some nasty situations.
Until they remove the barriers.
Indeed.
Miss Hart, you're sort of well entrenched in the Trigger Witch world right now. What's been some of your biggest takeaways that you've found from the game so far? And anything else you wanted to sort of highlight before maybe we could see if Jono wants to give us a little behind the curtain, give us some inside goss on things that maybe he hasn't spoken about on other podcasts?
I just think the overall transition between, for me especially, from like early stage of the game and then like fully immerse yourself in the game, like the hurdle, I guess, of learning how to play the game is pretty fluid. Like, I don't feel like there was like, you know, I adapted really quickly, and for me that's pretty important to a game because everyone knows how stubborn I am if I don't get something right away, and I usually drop something. So I really got fully immersed in the game and learned it really quickly, and have been enjoying it. The other thing is that I really enjoy the stage design. There's like a lot of memories from old games that I used to play when I was little, and just like a lot of memories of like stage design. Like I mentioned that I really like the mining section with all the gems and everything. There's a memory there of a game that I've played in the past that I can't seem to grab, but it definitely woken the gamer in me. So but it's an adorable game. I love how it matches cutesiness, violence, and sarcasm, which I think is pretty much me in a nutshell. So but it's been great. So
you're not violent, Ellie,
that you know of.
Some of those looks she can give you sort of imply violence could come your way if you're not careful. Sure. So I agree. Like it's a nice throwback, but with a modern spin to it. It's unlike a lot of these RPG sort of top-down view styles from yesteryear, but it combines that sort of twin stick insanity with some modern sarcasm and tongue-in-cheekness, and it's just cool to see. Like yourself and the crew over at Rainbite have done really well, and it's awesome to see that it's getting reviewed so positively around the globe. You know, we're trying to obviously give some non-biased opinions and reviews here. Obviously, you're one of our best mates, and you know, we know Jared pretty well and stuff like that. But you know, no rose-colored glasses here. This is sort of honest, and that's what we sort of do here. And it's been fun. Like, I've really enjoyed it. It's unlike the games I typically play on the daily, but it was a nice step outside the comfort zone, you could say.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a genre that I'm not too embedded in, and it felt fun. The game, I think it was paced really well. Like, I think all up, I might have clocked it at about 7 to 8 hours all up total runtime. So it was a nice, tight, condensed package. Story was cool. Soundtrack was cool. Characters were great. Gunplay was great. Like, overall, I had a good fun time with the experience. We both played on Xbox. So, we're playing both on Xbox Series X. Obviously, the game is available on PlayStation as well as Nintendo Switch. So you've got a slew of consoles you can get your hands on for Trigger Witch. But yeah, I reckon get out there, give it a go, support local devs, support good people, and you know, this game, it's priced really well. It's what, $22 I think on the Switch store.
Yeah, it's 10% off. Like all the consoles have it on sale basically for launch, so it's probably $20. I think it's like 10% off for a certain amount of time, probably like the first few weeks or a month. So yeah, $20, which I think is pretty good price point for a game that's, you know, 8 to 10 hours long. And has, you know, co-op if you want to replay with kids or with boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it might be. I think, I was listening to a podcast that covered the game yesterday, and I was really excited to hear them talk about like playing it with his son, one of the hosts, and how it was like his son's new obsession, and when can we play Trigger Witch again? And I was just like, oh, that's so cool. Like, they didn't even know there was the pinata mode at that point, so he's just playing this hyper-violent game with his kid. Blasting away like vegetables, you know, enchanted vegetables or whatever.
I may have subjected a niece of 4 years old to that as well.
Oh,
She wanted to play. So.
No pinata mode for the niece?
Someone forgot to turn it on. But she had fun.
Just
she
say
got
it's tomato sauce.
Yeah, I guess you could say, you know, you blast away the onion and
I took it back
pops out.
I took her back to like home base village, and she went and petted all the animals, and she loved it.
That's nice. Yeah, I love the idea that some kid could potentially, you know, grow up with nostalgia for this game. And like, when you think about the games you played as a kid, especially if you managed to play them with a parent or something, like we just heard about Brendan and Mama with Mortal Kombat and Donkey Kong Country and that kind of thing. Like, the thought of some kid having cherished memories with their siblings or parents is so like endearing and touching to me that could potentially be something they grow up with and think back fondly on. I love that idea. And I deliberately, like, you know, I mean, you know me anyway, but I deliberately tried to keep the story like family friendly, and as much as it's a violent game, it's you know, I think you can pass by with the pinata mode and keep it from being too confronting despite all the guns.
Yeah, no, I think tonally it's fantastic for old gamers, middle-aged gamers, and as confirmed by yourselves and some of these other reviewers for the younger gaming generation as well. Like, the controls are intuitive, but like give you enough of a challenge to feel you've got to work for some of these victories. And hearing that these young kiddos, like you said, a 4-year-old niece was slapping this game around with you, Miss Hart. That's awesome to hear. And yeah, maybe you've got yourself some future fans there, JP.
Maybe. I know that Hannah's having a bit of trouble with the twin sticks. She doesn't play a lot of games, but we're trying to get through it.
You playing together, doing co-op?
Yeah, it's a bit of a balance between her not wanting me to like kill every enemy on the screen for her and her struggling with the gameplay. So it's like, how much do I sit back versus make sure, like, try and protect her character.
Don't worry,
it's good fun.
Playing with my husband, he kept on catching me on fire with a certain button by pressing the button at the wrong time, and I was constantly running around on fire. So it's always an experience.
In the ice dungeon, I didn't
Yes.
realize that there was like friendly fire. That's cool.
Yes. Well,
Could cause
yeah.
some fights.
You press a button and the fire appears, and then I just so happened to be standing there. Totally an accident, of course.
Oh, again, sorry. I've got to ask, because I've only played this solo. With the co-op, the second character that come in, what's the name of the other character, or is it just, Bizarro Colette?
Yeah,
or-
they're just they're basically just a clone of Colette with a pink instead of a bluish, purpley robe, and they disappear in cutscenes. So we haven't incorporated that into the story.
Okay.
I wanted to make it like canon, where it's like you summon a familiar, like a conjuring of yourself, or like an alternate universe version of yourself, but it was a bit too complex to get in there, because you have to like explain it in the story, and then people have the option of using it or not, and it was just a bit much. So the game starts and pops up with a message saying co-op is available, just press start on a second controller.
No, we'll just say it's the human embodiment of Ronald the Bat.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
yeah, but it's fantastic. It's tons of fun to play. It's available right now on every sort of console-based platform. Yeah, single player, local co-op, however you want to play it, whatever your flavor is, get amongst it. Kill all the imps and bad vegetables and have a good time, and write down all those Easter eggs, because there are many. There are many. And for those that have finished it and want to talk about it in more detail, hit us up on them socials if you want. And we can have a chat in those messages, because you don't want to spoil the game and the story for everybody. But yeah, if you want to talk about some of those things that you dealt with or uncovered or discovered on your Trigger Witch journey, at Brendan8bit, at Jono himself, at Miss Ali Hart, or at We Are 8bit, drop into those DMs and we can have a Trigger Witch discussion.
Yeah. There's also a spoiler cast dropping with our friend Drew Agnew from the House of Mario, which will go live later this week, I believe. So you can, if you want to hear some of the inside stories about how things came about, or just covering all the plot twists between the different characters' side stories to the main story, then you can check that out with me and Drew.
Sounds good. Obviously, just search the House of Mario on all good podcast players, and you'll find that episode this coming week as well. JP, have you got any other tips or facts or random things you want to throw out there that you haven't talked about on other podcasts yet? Give us the good juice. We want that. We want that special lemonade. We don't want just the run of the mill stuff. We want the hot tips, the inside stuff. Give us the hotness, please, and thank you.
This is tough, because I've done like 4 or 5 podcasts already, so I'm trying to think, is there anything I haven't said? Because you know how I love to talk.
That's true. Make it up if you like.
Sure.
Just make up a cool story.
I'll talk about like some of the names of like the characters. Like they're named after, some of them are named after people I know. There's a Jack and a Tom and a Bren in the mine that you might have noticed, and the Bren even says that he's extremely humbled. So that's a nice little reference to yourself there, Mr. White. And
yeah, I had some issues that I was a big angry ginger, but you know what? I've got red in my beard, so I can't sort of deny it too much. I'm like, there's the onset there that I could be this minor.
It's okay. I think the one that's Tom, which if people don't know, like Jack and Tom is a reference to our friend Jack Cruz and Tom Marshall, also in our little online community. But the Tom one is a black character with, I think, a white beard. So, you got a lot closer to yourself than he did, at least. And yeah, there's some characters that are named after, like, there's Hakeem in the Goblin Village, which is just like Micah backwards, and there's obviously you mentioned like a Hoppus or Moppus Goblin character, which is a shout out to my hero Mark Hoppus from Blink-182, and a lot, like all the witches are named after gun parts. So you might not have noticed, or like gun brands. So Remy's like Remington. Then there's like Winch, and there's Colette, and that's the Colt, and Hilda is part of the gun, and it's just, I think Rainbite had that idea to ingrain the the religion of guns into that town as much as possible, with the chamber and the clip and the stock and all these little gun references to hone in the fact that this is a society that's just obsessed with guns. There's also a location called, I think, Mertnagurt Swamp, which is literally, I just went to Google Maps and searched for a swamp, and it was around the corner kind of from where I live. So that's a real location, apparently. I'll have to go and check it out.
Go get some photos down there. Get some awesome press photos done.
Behind the scenes, Mertnagurt Swamp. And what else can I tell you? There is... I've said this on Twitter, like, the voice of the Man in Black is myself, and the voice of the witches is my wife, Hannah. So I didn't... When I was doing the sound design, I didn't splurge on any voice actors. I just looked around the house mid-pandemic and thought, what can I use? So that was a good
My
way.
family.
Yeah.
Did you just like pan to your family and then a mirror?
Unpaid labor.
Like...
Yeah. Unpaid labor. It's the way to go. I could have hit up Miss Ali Hart, but then I was like, well, then we have to pay her and, you know, put her name in the credits, and it's a whole thing. So I'll just get Hannah to read the letters of the alphabet out loud.
And that's how it was done.
Yeah.
The magic.
Yeah.
Amidst the panic and strain and stress of COVID, a game was made. So it's nice to see. Yeah, get your hands on it. If you want to talk to Jono about the game in more detail, obviously at Jono himself, or if you want to reach out to Rainbite, find them on the socials. They're a fantastic, friendly bunch. They're New Zealanders, you know. They're the nicest people in the world. So
They're up there.
You got any questions, comments, concerns? Send them their way and tell them the Hungry Gamers sent you. But yeah, do yourselves a favor, especially people that are stuck currently in lockdown. You're looking for a nice distraction, a bit of escapism. Get your hands on a copy of Trigger Witch to just help ease the stresses and strains of this COVID situation running rampant all over the world, and especially right now here in New South Wales. You know, be safe, our Sydney friends. Be smart, be safe, wear a mask. Don't go to protests. Don't be those people. But get your hands on a copy of Trigger Witch, because it's well worth your time and your money, and will help little indie studio keep making more games like this.
Yeah, and I want to say, like, thanks to you guys for having me on to talk about it, and for playing it and helping, and, you know, letting me know about some of the bugs and stuff that we can fix before the masses experience them, hopefully. On top of that, I know some of your listeners have already picked up the game, so thanks to people who've been really enthusiastic out there. I think some of them have even probably picked up the physical editions that are available through Play Asia. So if you want to pick it up on Switch, I think there's still some of the special editions left, and there's a PS5 port that's coming later. There's physical editions for that too, and they come with a soundtrack and a nice little instruction manual if you're old school and miss the days that the games came with a manual that's got like some unique text in it, and just a few little goodies and bits of art there, which is I'm really a big fan of the art, so I'm looking forward to having that little box on my shelf too.
No, it's a great showpiece there. So for physical collectors, head over to Play Asia, East Asia Soft, sorry, and you'll be able to pick it up.
No,
yeah,
it's
Play Asia
Play
might
Asia.
sell it too.
Yeah, it is
Play
through
Asia.
Play Asia. Yeah.
I bought many things on there over the years.
Oh, yeah?
Great website. Great. Anytime you can't find stuff locally, Play Asia is the way to go. So that brings us to the end of sort of what we've been playing. All right, so a quick bit of housekeeping. Obviously, if you wanted to support us and 8-Bit as a whole, you can do so monetarily over at ko-fi.com/we-are8bit. We've got some tiered subscription levels there, starting from 1 AUD per month, scaling all the way up, and with that subsequent scale, you get exclusive access to swag, additional merch, additional perks. So head on over to Ko-fi and check that out. We've also got a new giveaway that's going to be kicking off on August the 1st, where you can get yourself an Audio-Technica ATH G1WL wireless gaming headset, as well as some 8-Bit related swag. So check out those socials this week. There'll be posts up on @WeAre8Bit on Twitter, and also on the IG on how you can get in and enter. Super simple to enter, costs you no money, takes next to no time, and you can win yourself a ton of free swagger. We're talking maybe collectively $400 to $500 worth of stuff. So what are you waiting for? Get on in, get your entries in, and hopefully you can win yourself some stuff there. But firstly, before we get into some news, what do you guys feel like doing a little bit of an AT read? You up to that?
Am I first? No, you're first, aren't you? Yeah. Brendan and Ali and listeners, whether you're a budding podcaster, streamer, YouTuber, hardcore couch gamer, or just an audiophile, Audio-Technica has you covered with the best range of audio equipment in the market today.
If you've listened to us at least once before, there's a strong chance you have heard us talk about our podcast origin story and the fact that Audio-Technica have been with us from the very beginning. Our first ever mics that we hungry gamed into were the AT 2020, and as we all know, you never forget your first. Giddy up. Navigating the world of video game and pop culture with the leaders in audio-based equipment has been quite the journey. The news might not always be the most positive, but our audio quality most certainly is. Audio-Technica are your audio-based one-up.
And listeners, you can up your game with the ATH G1WL wireless headset with a detachable mic, 15-hour battery charge time, allowing you to seamlessly go from the battlefield to the streets. If wireless gaming headsets aren't your thing, fear not, as Audio-Technica can upgrade your vinyl recording listening experience with a sexy range of turntables. It can improve your KD ratio via their market-leading assortment of microphones, or just improve your general listening experience thanks to their wide range of headphones that come with all the latest bells and whistles. We're talking Bluetooth, noise cancelling, in-ear or over-ear. There truly is something for everybody over at audio-technica.com.au.
Get on it, listeners. You need it, you want it, they've got it, you get it.
This week's news headlines.
All right, and the first bit of news, a couple of quick hitters here doing the rounds. Obviously, it's been a few weeks since we've done the rounds of video game news and hypothesizing and things like that. So we're just trying to grab things that are relevant from this past week. And the first one, The Witcher Monster Slayer has generated over $500,000 in its first week on the back of 1 million downloads on iOS and Android. So obviously this is the new Witcher mobile version that was released at WitcherCon a couple of weeks ago. So, CD Projekt Red continue to print money, and that franchise continues to crush it. Either of yourselves going to download and play this game? Any interest? No interest?
Not me.
No, I'm a huge Witcher fan, but I honestly haven't looked into this at all. I might have to just suss it out to see what the kind of vibe and gameplay is, because I love myself some Gwent. I love The Witcher in every kind of version we've seen. I haven't read the books, but, TV show, games. So, I don't know. I'll have to check it out. I'm glad it's doing well, because CD Projekt Red probably need the step
some
in,
positive press.
the step into good favor again. I think they couldn't put Witcher content out sooner enough to get the taste out of people's mouth with Cyberpunk and win back some of that goodwill that they've lost.
Well, it's finally on the PlayStation Store after all these months, the old Cyberpunk, and it's apparently selling pretty well, to no one's surprise. So, CD Projekt Red just making all that cash. The next little quick hitter, War for Wakanda, the next big expansion for Marvel's The Avengers, stealth techs its way onto consoles and PC on August the 16th. JP, you and I were big advocates for this game in the early stages, have since left the Marvel's universe very swiftly. We've been killed off. We are gone. We're no longer part of this world. But are you going to go back on August the 16th and play as Black Panther and etch out your way through this expansion?
First of all, I just have to correct myself, because CD Projekt Red had nothing to do with that mobile game. I don't remember if you mentioned the developer or not, but I just have to X out my previous comment about them.
Yeah, but they're getting a slice of this, no doubt. So it's all interconnected.
Okay, but to answer the actual question, no, I don't think I can see myself going back to the Avengers. I've been waiting for Spider-Man. That was the thing that from day one, I was like, okay, I'll come back when Spider-Man's in there. But unless people rave about this expansion, and unless people like you and Jared and other people that I play games with, Benny, I think we rolled with a few times in in the Avengers. If people get back on the train and try to pull me in, then I'd be up for it for the social reasons. I even jumped into Pokemon Unite to play with you and NATO, and that's a game that I really don't have interest in at all. It was just to hang out with you guys. So yeah, I can see that this could potentially bring me back, but in and of itself, it's not like I'm going to go download it now and just start playing it.
Yeah. What about you, Miss Hart? Are you going to download it and just start playing it? Are you in finally? Are you jumping on board the Avengers train?
No, if Hawkeye couldn't get me into it, then nothing.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. It's like we had the highest of hopes for this game, and they seem to be dwindling by the second. It's a very stark contrast to, I guess, the cinematic and screen-based worlds they're building out really, really well at the moment. The game itself has just been a bit of a dog's breakfast, but we'll see. Maybe War for Wakanda will get a nice spike and build that player base back up and give this game some hope for the future, but I still feel that it's got maybe a year of life left in it. Maybe after, the Spider-Man release, which I'm assuming is probably going to tie in around the next time, around the movie release that we've got coming up with Tom Holland and co. Maybe they're going to try and sort of stealth release it around that same time to do a little bit of co-op marketing.
I think by that point in time, like when Spider-Man eventually comes out, there will be a bunch of new content for people like us that haven't played it for a couple of years that might be like, oh, let's jump back in, and we've probably got like 2 or 3 nights worth of, or maybe a week's worth of content to play through, and it's because it's been a while since we've played it, and might feel a bit new again, and they might have fixed a lot of the issues that we had way back when we were playing it all the time. So yeah, getting that story related content is probably what would draw me back in. So I've got, I'm not closing the book completely on this game. I'll give it that much.
Yeah, I'd like to go back, but I think it's going to be on the basis of going back with friends. I'm not doing this solo. I've got zero interest in playing this game by myself. No, zero.
Let's make a date. We'll do it.
I've got a lot of interest, though, in Hawkeye. Obviously, this past week, we have had confirmation that the debut 6-episode first season, or 6-episode run, it's not been confirmed if it's multi-season yet, will be launching on Disney Plus on November 24 of 2021, and it's going to be following the new normal now, these Wednesday episode release cycles.
Thank goodness.
I'm excited for this. No doubt, Miss Hart, you are keen as a bean for some Hawkeye.
Super stoked. It looks like they've taken a lot of references from Matt Faction's Hawkeye comic. I was always a bit hesitant about seeing Kate Bishop and seeing who was going to portray her, because someone once planted in my mind that Aubrey Plaza could do it. However, everything that I've seen based on screenshots and sets and stuff like that, it's looking good. It's looking promising. So fingers crossed it's just as successful as all the other series that have been coming out, and hopefully it gets some people to grow to love Hawkeye and more of his backstory.
It looks interesting, and I don't mind the casting. I like Haley Steinfeld as an actress. She's a talented starlet on screen, and hopefully she does well in that role. And getting a bit of Jeremy Renner to ride shotgun with her, and obviously some of the things that get alluded to in some of the other franchises. I'm talking very broad stroke, non-spoiler here. I'm excited for what could play out in Hawkeye. That's all I'm going to say, because I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. And I'm treading on a lot of eggshells right now. So I'm excited for what could come out of these 6 episodes, especially after what they've just done with Loki and the other shows before that. I'm really keen for Phase 4. It's a good time to be a Marvel fan, I feel.
Yeah, they're doing some cool stuff with these TV shows, and like this is similar for me to Falcon and Winter Soldier, where Hawkeye is just one of those characters, sorry Ali, that I just don't care about that much.
The movies don't lead you to care about him.
Based on the movies, like he was cool in Endgame. That was probably the most interesting he's ever been by a long way. But especially Falcon and Bucky, the Winter Soldier, I really didn't care about them as like characters, as people and personalities. And the TV show did a lot to flesh them out and give me some depth there, and kind of make me be interested. Okay, maybe I would watch a movie with these guys. And it's a similar thing with Hawkeye, where I love Jeremy Renner. He's a talented dude. So giving him some time to shine. And if there's a bit of Linda Cardinelli in there too, then that's always a positive. I'm a big fan of her over the years.
She's a gorgeous woman.
Yeah,
and she's great. Like in dramas and comedy,
Yes.
she's just got a really, really good delivery.
She's very talented. Yeah, going all the way back to Freaks and Geeks. Big fan of Linda. So yeah, that can only be a positive if she's involved. And yeah, I think that having that family man is a rare kind of character for this universe. Like, I think through all the heroes, I'm thinking off the top of my head, it's pretty rare in the MCU, at least, for there to be.
It's Hawkeye and Ant-Man, really.
Yeah,
They're the only two.
And he's
the family men.
And Ant-Man's even like I guess he's like the single father.
Yeah.
Like remarried, or I don't know exactly what the status
Separated.
is with Waspy with the Wasp.
Whatever she wants to do, I'd be like, yeah, I'm doing it. Yep.
Yeah. So I guess just it's great that there's a variety of characters in the universe, but as someone that I did grow up in a nuclear family, and I've got a wife and a kid, then yeah, give me some dad, give me some dad jokes and dad vibes from Hawkeye, and make him interesting and badass.
Yeah, I think it's going to go well. I think it's going to go well. Like the recent track record for what they're doing on Disney Plus, they're not only throwing a lot of money at these productions, but also the writing's usually on point, the acting, the mixture of CGI and real effects has been really cool as well, where they are using real world locations to shoot a lot of this stuff and less dependent on the green screen efforts. So I'm keen as a bean to see where they go with this, and can't wait for a bit of that in November. Like, the back end of this year is going to be pretty bumper. This is going to just about take us up to the drop of The Witcher Season 2. When this is going to end, The Witcher Season 2 is just starting, which gets me very excited for. So, yeah, good time to be pop culture fans. That's for damn sure. Okay, so moving into some more deeper dives on some news doing the rounds. This one's called XCOM Give It To You. And this past week, Microsoft reported its results for its fourth fiscal quarter, with a jump in gaming revenues driven by hardware sales, as CEO Satya Nadella dubbed the current Xbox Series S/X generation as Microsoft's fastest selling consoles ever. Nadella confirmed the milestone during an earnings call transcribed by Seeking Alpha, in which he also said millions, in quotes, of people have already used Xbox Cloud Gaming via a mix of desktop apps, via a mix of desktops, tablets, and phones. The call followed Microsoft's presentation of its financial results for the 3 months ended June 30, 2021, the final quarter of its current financial year. During this period, the firm's personal computing division, which includes Xbox, saw a 9% increase in revenue up to $14.1 billion overall. Gaming revenue in particular increased by 11%, up to $357 million for the quarter, primarily driven by an increase in Xbox hardware. Hardware revenue increased by 172% in Q4 due to a higher volume of Xbox consoles sold than the previous quarter. So, my goodness, Microsoft and, in a narrower lens, Xbox are doing well. It's awesome to see, and we're going to follow with some more positive news in a sec on the other platform. Maybe I cover the other one, then we can sort of look at these in a selected, in a sort of combined. So the next one, 10 million reasons why. So we're jumping from Team Green to Team Blue here. PlayStation 5 is Sony's fastest selling games console after surpassing 10 million sales worldwide. The new console reached the figure on July 18th, just under a month faster than the PlayStation 4 managed. Other sales figures released by Sony includes that Spider-Man Miles Morales has sold over 6.5 million copies since its launch last year. PlayStation 5 exclusives Returnal, released in April, has exceeded 560,000 copies, and Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, which was released last month, is already over 1.1 million units worldwide. Meanwhile, Sony San Diego developed MLB The Show 2021, which was released on non-PlayStation platforms as well, has surpassed 2 million sales worldwide. The game actually has more than 4 million players, and that was included in the Xbox Game Pass service. So, Xbox, Sony, next gen, now current gen, both kicking goals, both kicking ass. Awesome to see Where do you want to start with this, Miss Hart? Where do you want to start? Where are we going to go? Do we got any blanket statements? What's your thoughts? Overall, I think it's positive.
Yeah,
right?
overall it's positive. I'm like, there's like, based on the year that we've all had, I am curious how we've seen an increase. Like, it makes sense to have an increase if a lot of people are homebodies now, and a lot of people were stay at home, so they took the opportunity to be, take up on the new hardware and experience the new consoles, which also is a good reason for console sales to go up because it is the new. But then, it's kind of interesting because unfortunately there was a lot of economical turmoil, a lot of people losing their jobs and such. So I wasn't too sure if fancy expenditures were going to be in the mix. But based on this, it seems like everyone had just, enough money just to buy a console or two to make this either way it's great. Like, you don't want to see game consoles fail on either side of the fence. Competition's good. And it's just the up and up for gamers.
100%. What do you reckon, JP? What are you going to add to this to this discussion?
Well, I think it's really interesting considering there has been that shortage of console availability that I don't think we saw with the PS4 at the time and the Xbox One. And you know from your day job that there's been this chip shortage that's meant that it's very hard for the consoles to get made, and there's still a lot of people that are waiting for the chance to be able to buy a PS5 or an Xbox Series X. So I think when you factor that in, it shows the growth over time of these consoles. The PlayStation 4 is one of the best-selling consoles of all time, and over the 5 or 6 years since it came out, a lot of those people, I think that generation brought in a lot of new gamers as far as being console gamers. So we're seeing, I think, some of those people jumping on this, new console and getting on top of it. And it's really, really cool, especially to see that. I don't know if Xbox compared it to previous consoles, but the fact, they did. They said it's the fastest selling, didn't they? So the fact that it's a milestone for both of them is fantastic. I find it interesting that PlayStation went out there with the big 10 million figure, which is obviously a big flex, and Xbox deliberately didn't mention their numbers, I think because they're slightly less. There's an estimate I've got here from an industry analyst who says that about 6.5 million for the X and S as of June 30. So that's probably based on like the profits there, and they've done some calculations and tried to figure it out. But I find it interesting considering how well the Xbox has been doing with positive coverage with Game Pass, that there's still such a wide gap, like about 3.5 million difference if those numbers are to be believed. And I wonder if that number will start to even out as Xbox gives it to you and PlayStation is less of the industry darling that it has been. But it's just really hard to tell because obviously PlayStation has so many big hitters still to come as far as like big exclusives, your God of Wars and your Horizons and whatever else might be that's still to come. So yeah, I'm really curious how it's going to play out over the next few years in terms of that console war. Not that we don't want to stoke like the fires between the fan bases, but it's still interesting to follow the comparisons between the two.
Yeah,
like I think the three of us here, we're neutral gamers for the most part. Obviously, Ali and myself, we have both platforms where you're just on the PlayStation 5 train at the moment. But I know you've been leaning more and more towards picking up at least an S, so you've got a Game Pass machine for future. And
leaning towards the cloud service if
Okay.
it's an option potentially to play some of those exclusives.
Yeah, depending obviously on your internet connection out your way, but it is an option and it could be a smart play getting on xCloud with Game Pass. But I think we might see a little bit more parity over the next few years. Like Sony is certainly the biggest dog in this race at the moment from a units perspective, and Microsoft have always been sneaky like this. They never really break it down to we've sold X amount of consoles. It's always this holistic number with a dollar value attached. And yeah, Sony's winning this race, and it's surprising, and I guess maybe it's a little bit naive, at least from my side now, where you just assume because it's been 9 months, coming towards 10 months now since these consoles have come out, you'd think they're just going to be out in the wild and you can just find them on the shelf. But yeah, like my day-to-day, the shortages on chips, on silicons, on plastics and things like that in all types of technology manufacture are just running rampant, and it changes by the day. Like you could, behind the curtain on my day-to-day, I'll quote a job for a heap of CCTV security cameras, talk to the vendor that morning. Yep, we can supply them in 3 weeks. Rah, cool, happy days. I'll quote it. I'll come back to them the next day and be like, hey, we've just won this job. Need to place this order. And they, oh, by the way, it's now 12 weeks because the components we had aside just got pulled or got sold to another vendor, another unrelated industry. And so it's this very much sort of seesawing on the daily as far as how this thing goes. So it's awesome to see Sony and Microsoft be able to keep a steady flow of consoles into the market where global shortages on components are impacting everything, and yet both these releases are seeing, in air quotes, fastest selling consoles ever for both respective brands. So that's cool to see. And as you said, JP, like we've got some fantastic titles out for both of these platforms, but I think moving into year 2 and year 3 is where we're really going to see these big games start to come out and a lot more uptake on these consoles where these numbers of, 6.5 million-ish and then your 10 million, that could potentially double at least over the next year or so when you're seeing, New Horizon with Halo Infinite coming out, with new Bethesda game X, with God of War, with all these other awesome titles coming where, that might be their only release that they buy some of these gamers and now their darling has hit the platform. So they're going to go out and get the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox Series S or X. So it's awesome to see. It's impressive that they've stayed ahead of the manufacturing curve because industries are crippled with component shortages. But hats off and a cheers to both Sony and Microsoft for their successes, and for those that have got the consoles, awesome. For those that are still trying, keep trying because they're doing these little guerrilla shipments every couple of weeks to various stores. So you might get lucky and snap one up from your local JB or your local GameStop or wherever you are in the world. Just keep your eyes peeled and your ears to the ground, and you'll get your hands on a copy of these consoles eventually and be able to play some cool games on there. It's
like trying to get a vaccine in Australia.
Oh my God! Don't get me started. Don't get me started. I'm working through that process at the moment, and I'm hopeful that I'll get rubber stamped in the next week or so because I sort of qualify. Essential. Depending on the day, as a quasi-essential frontline worker, because I do go into health and aged care facilities for site audits. So fingers crossed they'll give me the green light and I can get me some Pfizer. Otherwise, I guess I could get AstraZeneca this week, but I'm still like, I'm still scared. It's
okay. I got it. You'll be right.
All right, so the last bit of news we're bringing to the table, we are a little bit late to this, obviously, because we were very embedded with THG 250 shenanigans. So we're doing a little bit of an update and a pseudo recap as far as the situation that's occurring currently with Activision Blizzard, and we've titled this one, "It's Hard to Have Vision When You Are Stuck in a Blizzard." And the first part of this very, very long, very dense articles that we've taken. We've grabbed some of the best verbiage from gamesindustry.biz and sort of just compressed it down into a more palatable situation here. Goes like this. Current and former Ubisoft employees have spoken out in support of Activision Blizzard staff and demand an industry-wide collaboration on improving how reports of harassment, sexual misconduct, and more are handled. The letter has been signed by almost 500 people, including signatories from 32 of Ubisoft studios around the world. The letter calls for, in quotes, real fundamental changes, end quotes. Not just as at Ubisoft and Activision Blizzard, but across the games industry, demanding that those responsible are held accountable for their actions. The group proposes deliberation from industry leaders to establish a set of rules and processes for handling reports of such offences involving staff in non-management roles as well as union representatives. The letter claims not enough has been done to address long-known issues. Despite the publisher's promises of change, not enough has been done to address the original issues. We have seen nothing more than a year of kind words, empty promises, and an inability or unwillingness to remove known offenders, the group wrote. We no longer trust your commitment to address these issues at their core. You need to do more, end quote. The letter mentioned training sessions that go ignored by the people who need them the most, as well as reassurances and kind words that amount to nothing. They also demand that offenders be removed from the company, as well as anyone complicit in or willfully ignorant of the actions of others. So jumping forward, this Ubisoft news came on the back of the huge amount of public outcry regarding Activision Blizzard and just the general horrific treatment of staff, and there's so much out there on the internet. You could Google it. We might chuck a couple of good explanations in the show notes to get deeper dives if you wanted it, sort of breaking down this thing from a minute to minute and fact-based situation, but we'll give you a very compressed follow-up on the back of that, and we'll just sort of then unpack it as a trio here. So as of writing, or as of recording, over 3,800 current and former Activision Blizzard staff signed their own open letter decreeing the publisher's response to the lawsuit filed by the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing. The suit accused the publisher and its, in quotes, frat boy culture of creating an environment where discrimination and harassment is rampant and largely unpunished. Claims the publisher dismissed as distorted and in many cases false. Staff also organised a walkout this past week as a further sign of protest, demanding major changes to the company and how it handles such situations. CEO Bobby Kotick eventually responded the day before the walkout, acknowledging the initial response has been, in quote, tone deaf. He announced the third-party law firm has been commissioned to review the company's policies and processes, promising decisive action for offenders and termination for managers that have previously impeded the process. So the short version, before I chuck it out to you very intelligent co-hosts of mine, is that Activision Blizzard have been a dumpster fire for quite a long time. There's been a lot of situations reported, shared on social media of staff, both current and former, dealing with a slew of harassment, discrimination, and various other situations that no one should be part of, but it seemed to happen on the regular, and then it also then got dismissed by people in positions of power, and nothing had been since done. But the games industry has sort of, I guess, united en masse on the back of this, as well as on obviously the ongoing situations with Ubisoft, and then other situations at various other studios and houses around the world to try and unify and make something of this and make some positive change for the industry both now and into the future. So it's been a very, very intense couple of weeks reading some of the shares from staff as far as them recounting situations and scenarios they've been in. It's tough to read, and it's disgusting behavior, and it's rampant through a lot of these studios, and hopefully this is the start of getting the broom put through these places. People are held accountable, whether it be criminal charges faced on certain types of situations that have been discussed and revealed. And I'm hoping that this is the first step to some true positive change, and not just this sort of window dressing, bubbly quotes of change that these studios throw out there when these scenarios happen. So Miss Hart, what do you think about this?
It's hard to be optimistic because this kind of culture is everywhere. It's not just exclusively to the, gaming industry. It's pretty much every single work environment that you've probably been involved with, whether it be little companies or big companies. There's usually some kind of form of frat culture or boys club, as sometimes it's referred to as. And in regards to changes happening, there's usually ways that companies usually can find a way around it. Like Ubisoft has been mentioned. They were meant to, take a stand based on their previous offenses, but I believe
some of the people that were involved were just moved elsewhere in the company as opposed to actually getting fired or getting punishment of any variety. They just got moved around. So the Ubisoft employees are already still not happy on how they approach that situation. So with this one with Activision and Blizzard, I think the only reason why it's being taken a little bit more seriously is because the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing has actually gotten involved. So I guess then only now people are taking it seriously. The stories that you hear from, current and previous employees are just horrible. I'd hate to say that not a lot of them don't surprise me. There are some really serious ones that do surprise me and are absolutely shocking. But for a good chunk of it, it's not surprising to me at all.
Yeah, it's disgusting reading and seeing these stories shared out there, and the hearts break seeing that people are going through this, and some that are still continuing to go through this just due to fear of speaking out or fear of losing their job in this climate. So it's tough. JP, what do you think about all this? Have you been sort of up to date on these situations and how it's all playing out?
Yeah, I haven't deep dived into some of the specifics of people's stories. I just know that I don't need to know the specifics. I just know that it's bad and it has to change, and that the people responsible need to be dealt with. And as far as these letters, I think I just hope something comes of it. We've seen in recent months, for example, you had the IGN letter that went up in the games industry. People will know about this one, where they demanded some kind of response from their higher ups about removing a political story related to the Palestine-Israel conflict, and they kind of made some demands there, and I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure nothing happened as a result of that. So no. It was essentially weightless in its protest. And I'm not saying that's going to happen here, but I think because of the power imbalance here between, the corporate, conglomerate versus the staff, even if they are numbering in the hundreds or the thousands, it's so easy to sign your name on something. It's essentially effortless, and therefore it can be interpreted as weightless. So I think they really do need to follow through with potentially something that hurts the share market, the share price, the bottom dollar, to show that they're willing to affect the company until justice is served to them. And it's a difficult thing because it's their job that you're talking about. You want the company that you work for to be profitable and successful, and that's tied up into your own well-being. But at the same time, something has to change. And how else can you protect not only yourselves, your colleagues, your friends, but the future people that are in those positions, future generations of people? And I think it really has to hurt the company in some way for them to actually react. Because up until now, it's been exactly what they said. It's been promises. I can just imagine, we're doing training for people to learn what's acceptable workplace behavior. And then obviously the managers and the CEOs or whoever it is that's been at fault haven't had to mandatorily be involved in that, or they have continued to do what they've done, or as Ali said, they've been moved or promoted or shipped to another area. So yeah, I just think that what they're asking for is perfectly reasonable as far as some kind of committee that involves non-management and union representatives. I'm not a big union, give all the power to the union kind of guy, but I think in a circumstance like this where there is a clear issue and a clear systematic problem, that you just have to involve people that will be independent and make sure that, and will fight for the justice that's needed. And that's where, like you said, the California, the lawsuit is going to be a big factor in this. Without the lawsuit, it's just another company group of employees coming out and saying that there's culture issues, and the head of the studio saying, we're aware that there's been some issues and we're dealing with it and we strive to do better. It's even more weightless than some of the protests or the open letters to just say something like that, it means really nothing. And we've seen it like in, Ali alluded to issues outside of the games industry, whether it's like in my space, I work in healthcare, which has a far greater balance of gender, and I would say that there's not really any, like I've worked with mostly females personally, and it's completely different. But at the same time, there's issues where like it might be like LGBT inclusivity or responding to family violence, and like there's these other kinds of issues where it's like, okay, even though we're not actively hurting anyone, we need to do better to protect people. And how can we ingrain that into every facet of the company and the workplace? It's through like training, and it's through the managers doing the training, and it's through the managers. Like it starts at the top and it works all the way down. So I think that that's just such an important part of changing like long-term the cultures of these different industries and these different companies, is to get rid of the rot and replace it with people that are going to do everything they can, not the bare minimum they can, to protect their staff.
Yeah, hopefully this is some positive change for good. Yeah, it feels like this lawsuit that the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing is sort of behind. It feels like there's enough weight in that to make some positive change, instead of it just being a nice media release with some PR spin about we're sorry, we're going to do better. It feels like there's going to be some change in the future where it's like, do better, or otherwise we're going to fine you. We're going to, bring criminal actions towards the people that are responsible in these situations. So I'm hoping that this is the first step towards real change in this space, because you hear a lot of the, we're sorry, that kind of cliched nonsense. We'll do better, slap us on the hand, bad me, for being so ignorant. I didn't know that sexualizing a staff member is bad. Sorry, I know better now. I've done that kind of that training module online, so I'm cured. Like, make some genuine change, and as you said, JP, cut out the rot. Let the heads roll. Get these big fat cats that are complicit in this stuff out of there. Fine them, fire them, bring criminal charges on them if applicable, that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping that we do see some change for good, and it feels, at least on the Activision Blizzard side, industry-wide, this seems like the biggest sort of realignment with values across, whether it be fans of the games that Activision Blizzard make, whether it be media coverage as well. Like, a lot of studios are standing up and saying, hey, we're stopping coverage of these games until things have changed in Activision Blizzard. So until that day, we're not going to talk about upcoming releases or news or things related to these hubs. So it's good to see that industries are unified on that front and standing together and saying, yeah, your PR spin's not enough. We want real change. We want accountability, and we want to get rid of this, in air quotes, frat boy culture that runs rampant in this industry, as well as a lot of other industries. So fingers crossed, Miss Hart, that we get some change, and some real change for not only the short term but long term.
Just remember too, it's one thing to be the people that are like causing the action, saying the bad things, and it's another thing to be a person that's witnessed it and didn't say anything. So
100%, yeah. If you see a colleague, a friend, a family member, a random person on the street, like if you're on the train, you're at a restaurant, and you see someone acting poorly and berating, doing anything derogatory towards another person, say something about it, because if you're not going to be the change, then you're part of the problem. All right. Let's change the tone and change the gears here and jump into this.
Tweet of the week.
And this is a different kind of sadness on the back of that previous bit of news that we unpacked. And this tweet comes via Jason Schreier on Twitter. And the tweet reads, Sony has delayed the PlayStation exclusive Horizon Forbidden West to the first quarter of 2022, a source tells Bloomberg, confirming a rumor shared by Jeff Grubb yesterday. So we're talking Australian Friday. American Thursday, the latest in the video game industry's cascade of 2021 delays. So I'm not surprised by this. I assumed this was going to occur because when they did that big 10 plus minute sort of unveil at the most recent state of play, there was no mention of dates. There was not even, holiday 2021. There was none of that. So it just felt that this was going to fall into 2022, and maybe it's going to come out around February when first Horizon Zero Dawn dropped. And it sucks, but it's how the world is right now. It's tough to do your normal day-to-day with COVID and this constant changing of work from home, work from the office, outbreaks, staff shortages, so on and so forth. So it sucks, but it's necessary, and I've still got Guerrilla's back, and I'm not going to be throwing stones here. Take as long as you need. I'm going to wait. But yourselves, you want to add anything else on top of that one?
It's something that, like you said, it's not shocking. It's it's like a tiny bit unexpected to me, just because I've been taking it on good faith that what they've said is true. And like at that point when they released that big trailer, they said it was on pace to release as planned, which had been said as 2021. So I was holding on to that little nugget, that little quote to say like, okay, it's it's not looking like it's going to be delayed. It's still technically coming out this year, according to Herman Holst or whoever it was at that point in time. And it looks like, I guess, since then things have not come together as the way that they may have hoped. Maybe it's COVID, maybe it's other issues. So yeah, it's a little bit of a bummer, but it's a game worth waiting for, absolutely. And it's nothing to get upset about, because it's like they're pushing it back a year or anything. It's, for all we knew, it was going to come out in December, and now it's coming out in Jan, Feb, March. Like it's not the big deal. And from looking at things like Cyberpunk last year, there's been cases where a game of this scale, you just want it to have the time it needs to bake in the oven and come out fully formed, and as something that won't have any really regrets over that release, that that choice of release window. Yeah,
no one wants a runny cake. They want that cake nice and moist and delicious, and that's what this is going to be when it comes out next year. Miss Hart, are you going to be okay to wait until potentially February, March for Horizon Forbidden West? Are you going to be all right?
I think I'll be fine.
Well, Good. us HZD superfans here, 2/3 of us at least, we're going to be all right. We're going to survive. We're going to make it through. We've got Halo Infinite to see us over that holiday period. Maybe we'll still be slapping through Deathloop and stuff like that. So there's plenty of games on the way still. Mm-hmm. But if you're looking for games and things of note to sink your time into in the shorter term,
new releases and events.
Obviously, if you listen to this right now, THG 251 dropped on Monday, the 2nd of August. My God, it is August tomorrow, people. What the hell? The world slows for no one. It's insane. It is absolutely insane. And on the back of that, THG 251 is in your ear holes right now. If not, you'd never hear this statement. It wouldn't make any sense if you heard that on somewhere else. But Tuesday the 3rd is going to see the latest episode of Hoop Dreams dropping on the airwaves. Wednesday the 4th sees not only the latest episode of Is This Thing On? Ko-fi podcast exclusive, available for our Ko-fi fans and subscribers over at ko-fi.com/weare8bit, as well as the next episode of Australia's Jono Pech's Comedy Rewind, which sees Stephen from Player 2 joining Jono in the co-host chair to talk about a fantastic film known as Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Love that movie. Yeah. Love that movie.
It's a good one. And it's one that I'm looking forward to talking about later today, in fact. So by the time people are hearing this, it will be only a couple days away.
Ooh, nice. Are you a Forgetting Sarah Marshall fan, Miss Hart? You like that movie?
I watched it once and liked it, but I never went back to it.
You're a fan of Alder Snow?
What?
She's going to say, what?
Huh? What? Also, excuse me, coming out this week, Suicide Squad hitting the cinemas. Early reviews are in and it is getting a lot of positive press. Looks like James Gunn has hit this sucker out of the park.
God.
We can forget about the first iteration of this movie, chuck it in the trash with all those scumbags from Activision Blizzard, and get excited for Suicide Squad this week. I cannot wait for this. I'm going to watch this Thursday night, putting it out there. Anyone in Brisbane wants to come watch it with me, come along. Otherwise, I'm going by myself because solo movie sessions are the business. JP, you need to do them. I was trying to get you to do it for Space Jam 2, but now you're going to do it with a friend, which is fine, but solo movie sessions.
Hey, you ain't going to Space Jam by yourself.
Mate, I'll go watch anything by myself.
I went to Detective Pikachu by myself. I go to movies by myself. I just don't want to go to Space Jam by myself.
You need to
I feel
hold
like
a
it's
hand.
the kind of movie. It's the kind of movie where you want to look at the person next to you and like roll your eyes.
Oh yeah, based off what I've heard.
Yeah, hold your hand. Yeah.
Miss Hart, are you lining up day one to watch a bit of Suicide Squad? You going to be checking it out this week?
I think it's available to stream same day as theaters, right?
We don't get that option over here because it's normal again.
Yeah, so I'll probably be watching it at home. Like, truth be told, we actually got invited to a screening last night. But it was like one of those like fan ones, first in, gets in kind of thing like that. And yeah, we weren't going to be up for that. But that's okay. We'll stream it at home.
I
with
cannot
pizza.
wait for this. Cannot wait.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very, very excited. And then, that excitement will then follow into Friday, where we're going to get the long-awaited Cocktail Club debut for Miss Ali Hart, the one that you and Benny broke down some margarita discussion, making its way to the 8-Bit Cast RSS feed on Friday the 6th. And also, unrelated to podcast, I guess it's very much related to podcasting, but Jono and myself are doing an Audio Technica takeover on their social media this week as well. If you've still got time to head on over to Audio Technica AU on Instagram or Twitter to drop your questions in, and you can go in the running to win an AT 2020 USB Plus microphone. There's 2 to give away. So chuck your questions in there and we'll be tackling all those and more later on this week. So get excited for that. As far as games that are coming out this week as well, Grime is dropping on Stadia and PC on August the 2nd. Lemnis Gate is dropping on everything on August the 3rd. The Ramp, PC, August the 3rd. Never heard of The Ramp. Can someone Google what The Ramp is and tell me if it's actually just a game about one ramp? I'd love to know if it's just a ramp. Dungeon Defenders Awakened dropping on the Switch August the 4th. My Time at Portia dropping on mobile on August the 4th. And The Falconeer making its way finally to the PlayStation 4 and 5 as well as the Switch on August the 5th. So not a huge variety of games out there dropping this week. So I just suggest dropping that $20 on Triggerwitch on those platforms and playing that instead.
The Ramp.
Absolutely.
The Ramp is a skateboarding game.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought it was going to be like a fantasy game where it's just about the stories and scenarios of a ramp. I don't know why. I just didn't think of it ever as a skateboarding game.
I was thinking BMX, but close.
Closer than Brendan.
Yes.
Yes.
But that brings us to the end of THG 251. Jono, have you got anything you'd like to say or share before we turn these mics off for another week?
Not really. Just want to reiterate thanks for having me on, and thanks to everyone that's been supportive with Trigger Witch and picking it up and enjoying it so far. There's plenty of podcast appearances either this week that have already been or coming soon. If you want to hear me talk about the game even more than you have today, including that one that I mentioned with House of Mario coming up with the spoiler cast. So plenty of Trigger Witch extracurricular if you so desire.
110%. What about you, Miss Hart? Anything you want to say before we shut this sucker down?
Just everyone go watch Suicide Squad. Give it the love it needs.
Yes.
Please.
And buy popcorn, but maybe bring your own candy because it's expensive at the movies. You don't want to skimp on your popcorn, but if you can sneak a bag of Maltesers or peanut M&Ms in or whatever it might
Skittles.
be, do that because you're going to save yourself a bucket load of Johnny
Yeah, I
Cash.
used to be a sour Skittles person to the movies. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, I don't mind Skittles. Original M&M's though, in the bin.
Just nothing too noisy, people.
I mean, pop
But those bags
noisy.
are noisy.
Yeah, they're totally
Skittles are-
noisy.
Yeah, but you just wait for like a loudish moment to make your pour.
No, you just got to be smart about it.
Tactical pouring.
Just
Especially in The Quiet Place Part 2.
Oh
the other
my
day.
God.
I was like very self-conscious of making food-related noises.
it's the first time I think in my whole life I've eaten popcorn one kernel at a time. It's just like with like just a little stealth chew. It took me so long to get through my popcorn. I still did it, but yeah, it's
Just like suck it through your teeth instead.
I love popcorn. Anyway, 8-Bit Nation, thanks for stopping on by. Be sure to rate, review, subscribe us as well as all the other podcasts you listen to on the Reg, on Apple Podcasts, on your podcast player of choice, because those ratings and views help keep the emotional lights on in our hearts. But until next time, 8-Bit Nation, where we come at you for the world first episode 252 of the Hungry Gamers podcast. Much love.
Stay humble.
Stay hungry.
Stay horny.
And stay hydrated.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely stay hydrated.
Listening to the Hungry
And horny.
Gamers, one of many gaming and geek culture related podcasts from the 8-Bit Collective over on 8bit.net. Check out more episodes on your podcast service of choice. And while you're there, please be sure to rate and subscribe. Until next time, boys and girls, stay hungry.